Welcome back to Sister Circle Live. We are talking freedom of speech and freedom of the press today. We recently talked about this story. CNN reporter Jim Acosta's press pass was suspended by the White House after a heated exchange with President Trump. It has now been reinstated, but White House officials issued a new set of rules for the press corps, stating that reporters may only ask one question, permitting follow-ups at the discretion of the president. Also, reporters must hand over the microphone when directed, and violation of the rules could result in suspension or revocation of their credentials. Here to break it all the way down for us is our friend, political analyst, Ivory. She's joining us. Back again. Welcome back. Yes.
Thank you for
Happy
being
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Awesome. I love your glasses. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, so cute.
Yes.
Miss Ivory. Now, this is a much bigger issue than just taking one press pass away from one journalist. So talk to us about what this means regarding the First Amendment and freedom of speech.
Sure. So, I mean, you guys have seen that there's been an attack on the press, right? And an attack on the press is an attack on the First Amendment. So the First Amendment gives us our religious freedoms. It gives the press the right to cover and the right to do what they do. It does the right of freedom of speech. It also says that you can go against the government for grievances that you want to bring against the government. So it's one of those things that is the only protected right the press has. So it's been under attack since President Trump. So what this basically says is that the press prevailed in this lawsuit. And it says that the press should be free and open. And that people should be allowed to ask questions of the president and be and able to get answers back. And so, you know, it's a big win for the press, but we will continue to have this struggle with President Trump over and over again. So just one small win, and so we continue to move forward and, you know, see how things go with him. But he's definitely the enemy of the press. It's ridiculous.
Since
campaigning. Since campaigning.
And speaking of small wins, what do you think about the new set of rules now? Now there's rules, you know, that are imposed by the White House that reporters must now physically surrender the microphone at the discretion of 45 for risk of suspension or revocation of their credentials, which is absolutely
horrible.
ridiculous.
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, let's say this. He doesn't do a lot of press conferences. So this is, you know, he's not a president that has made himself available to the press. He's not someone that likes to answer questions. So this is really very arbitrary. These rules are really being put in place for the next lawsuit that comes. So the reason that this lawsuit was actually able to go through is because there were no codified rules in place. So this goes ahead and codifies the rules and says that, well, if you do something, now we have a process, we have a rule that you have broken, and now we're able to say you broke the rule. But no White House press conferences go according to these rules ever in history. Reporters ask questions, and then the president answers, and then reporters rebut the questions, and they're allowed to come back, and it's a back and forth, right? That's what our law has allowed.
But does that mean that if the president does not have you know, multiple press conferences like he should, does that mean that he's actually keeping himself from actually the American people at the end of the day?
Absolutely. This is a president who does not want transparency. Does not want any information that is not positive about him. And the press is actually in place to check the president. The press is supposed to ask the president questions that normal Americans would not be able to This is meant to say, hold on, ask your one question, I'll answer your one question, and if I don't like it, it's control. And so all it really does again is gives them some protection from a due process claim, which means I haven't had my rights adjudicated correctly. And so this says, well, you know, you asked two questions instead of one, so you broke the code we have in place, and now we can suspend your hard pass. So that's really a procedural method that they did in order for the next reporter that he doesn't like, or he doesn't like what they're saying about him, to say, take that press pass.
Well, the true role of a journalist is to hold the government accountable. You know, we want to see to it that there is complete transparency. Do you feel that this is threatening our democracy?
Absolutely. Think North Korea, think Syria, think countries where there is nothing that is not state controlled, and that the information that people get comes straight from the government, how they want them to have it and how they want them to process it. That is when there is a ruler. And President Trump would like that form of government in America. He would like to be a dictator, he would like to be a ruler, and he would like only the information that he wants out, what he wants said about him, to be in the public sphere. And that's why he chooses only certain networks to talk to. Because if it's not going to be positive, he doesn't want Americans in his regard. That is absolutely an attack on our democracy.
So subjugation of the press.
Absolutely.
And essentially what I hear and what I see with the way he operates is that he doesn't want you to be an independent thinker.
That's right. He only wants you to think the way he thinks. And if you don't, then you're an enemy of the state, the way he has painted the press to be an enemy.
How has his behavior affected the press and how we are perceived?
Oh, it's been awful. It's been awful. Imagine that there's no longer a true fact. Right? There's only the way you see it and the way he sees it. And he has used the press quite effectively to make everything cloudy. So no longer do we say, oh, these flowers are red and yellow. You would now say, well, you know, when I look at them, they seem a bit maroon and beige. And so now nobody knows what the true facts are. So once you attack the very fiber of what the press is, which is a regurgitator of factual information, then you are cloudy everywhere. And what he wants our country to be is cloudy and obscure and unable to speak forthright and not to be able to tell the truth. And it affects our community mostly. So that is why an attack on the press, whether it's the white press, the black press, or any press, affects us worse than it affects anybody else.
Why is that?
Well, that is because the laws aren't in our favor. So when something is cloudy, it usually it becomes adjudicated, right? And it goes to the court system. If the court system is then appointed by him, which in this case, the judge, Judge Ali, was appointed by him, but he did do the right thing, not all the way, but a little bit of the right thing, then most of the times in the judicial system, we don't win. So if it's cloudy, the facts are cloudy, like, did he really shoot you? Well, it looks like he really shot you. Well, no, he was really afraid. That kind of thing. Then when it gets to the court system, which is never on our side, is not something that works for our community, that's where we feel it the most.
My God.
Who checks him? Who checks him?
Well, there are three branches of government, and there is supposed to be a check. The executive branch is not supposed to be all-powerful in a democracy, and that's what he's trying to mess up.
Man, Mo Ivory, thank you so much for breaking it all the way down.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You can follow her on Instagram at Mo Ivory Show and Mo Ivory everywhere else. Coming up later, Chef Denard is cooking up a special Thanksgiving